Single problem in Canada stems from one issue, and that issue is immigration. You know, purely Canada and every single country on an economic level is based on purely supply and demand, whether that be the job market, the housing market, any market really. So if you the uh, look at the housing market we have right here, and you can easily tell, well, what the fuck's going on here. So if you just break this down, why is our housing market, so fucked? Why are houses in Toronto averaging out to be $1 million? Well, it's purely supply and demand. We have way too much people coming in, immigrants, and not enough houses being built. Look right here, 2021, we had 271,000 housing starts, so starting to build houses, whatever, units, so could also include apartments, condos, whatever that may be, a unit that one or two people would live in. You have 271,000 of those being built, but you have 700,000 immigrants. Now, in the year 2025, I'm pretty sure it's a 5-to-1 ratio. There's 5 immigrants coming in every single year per one house being built or per one unit being built. Now, that is why our housing market is so fucked up. And it's the exact same thing with the job market. You have way too much people coming in and not enough jobs. So, how do you fix this? Well, you have to completely stop immigration. Now, I mean, completely cut it out for a few years. This is at 1 million. You need this to go to completely zero. You spend billions annually on immigration. Put all of that money into creating job opportunities and building houses. Now, I do realize that this will fuck up the economy for around 2 to 3 years. It will destroy Canada's economy. It will make it terrible. I don't even know what will happen. Just if you have that much of a fluctuation in any metric, really. This time you're looking at, people, residents in Canada. If you have way too much coming in, which is happening right now, or way too little coming in, which is what I'm suggesting, or you have, completely even. So if we stayed around this line, it'd probably be all right. But you need to completely stop all of that, completely stop immigration so that you can level that out. You can level out the housing and the job market with the immigrants that are then going to come in after you do that. Now, that sounds pretty easy, but there is one problem, that this is never going to happen, because let's say someone's running for prime minister and they actually suggest this. They say, hey, this is how I'm suggesting to fix the job market, to fix the housing market, to fix, you know, all of those, everything economically in Canada. We're proposing completely stopping immigration. Well, Canadians, white Canadians, are not a minority in Canada yet. We're around, I think it is 65% of the population. But in the biggest cities in Canada, like Toronto, white people are a minority, which means immigrants take up around 60% of Toronto, 70% of Brampton, and white people are minorities in huge cities all across Canada. Toronto, I just named one, Brampton, Vancouver. There's a few other in British Columbia, a few in Alberta. So if you know anything about voting, how that sort of stuff works, all the ridings or electoral districts, lots of those, in the biggest places that have the most. Toronto has 25 electoral districts, I'm pretty sure. All of those white people are a minority, and no immigrant or second generation, first generation immigrant is going to vote for someone who wants to do that. So that's already 25 ridings out. Just you're not getting voted for there. And then you have to take into Vancouver, Brampton, and then the actual white people that are not going to be voting for you too. So really, you have no chance, and that's kind of the problem in Canada right now. That if you have someone good coming into running for whatever it may be, let's just use prime minister because it's the easiest example really. They're not going to be able to get into office, and that's purely just that's kind of just it, and you can't do anything about it. Nobody's ever going to be able to do anything about it, because the amount of immigrants that are taking up Canada's total population, they're not going to be voting for someone who wants either mass deportations or to completely just cap, immigrant arrivals in Canada. Um, And another thing, the reason that we bring in so much immigrants is because of Canada's fertility rate. I mean, Canada's fertility rate is destroyed 1.26 births per woman. That's in 2023. It's 1.25 in 2024. Right now, it's 2026. It's probably around 1.2. You need it to be over 2, obviously, for it to maintain your population. That's why we bring in so much immigrants. And the reason nobody's having babies is not because nobody wants to, or it's this new generation. It's the economic issue. People cannot afford to do that. People can't even buy houses. People can barely buy food for themselves, let alone a family of 3. Like, that's really not possible if your household income isn't making over 100K a year or 200K a year. The average person is not going to be able to have a family of 3 and have a nice house. That's that's just kind of how Canada is. So bring it back to this issue. If you solve the housing market, you solve the job market with capping immigration, then the fertility rate also goes up, right? Because that's the reason nobody's having babies. It's because Canada is way too expensive. It's not because, it's the generation, it's this new social media stuff. It's pushed into this school system. Whatever bullshit they're trying to tell you it is, it's really just because Canada is way too expensive. So if you cap immigration, the housing market gets better, the job market gets better, and the food market gets better since the job market gets better. Every single market gets better. Overall, Canada is a cheaper place to live. Way more people are going to be having babies. And then we're relying way less on immigrants because, it's not really a secret that Canada relies on immigrants this much. I mean, just look at this. 1 million immigrants, like that's just disgusting. I mean, these numbers are terrible, and that's from 2023. I mean, it's 2026. I mean, I think we've been taking around 1 million a year since 2022. Yeah. So I mean, that's 4 million immigrants just right there, and yeah, so that's kind of the solution to this whole thing. Just completely stop immigration for a few years. It'll fuck up the economy. So in the short run, completely cooks you, but in the long run, it's going to be very beneficial. But then again, the problem I brought up, it's never going to happen. It's a dream, it's a delusion because you have so much immigrants in Canada that none of them are actually going to vote for that person who is, pushing this ideology of capping immigration or mass deportations, which mass deportations, I don't even think that could happen because it's not like ICE in the United States where they have tons of illegals. Canada doesn't even have that much illegals because we kind of just let everyone in. Nobody has to sneak into our country. They kind of just get let in. So it's not like we can have mass deportations because there's no reason to deport them. In the U.S. they're illegal. They broke federal law, so that's a reason to deport them, to send them back to their own country. In Canada, I mean, they were let into the country legally, so you can't deport them because I mean that's just illegal. You just can't do that. But yeah, so I mean that's really it. There's no solution. This is kind of just Canada. Kind of just sucks. Something you have to deal with. Yeah, that's really it. But well, you can only hope. That's really it. All right, yep. Peace, bro.